I think the key is to live English. I basically used every single moment as a learning opportunity. Even at this very moment, I am currently based in South Korea, but I am running this YouTube channel in English. Hi friends, in this video we're talking about how to become fluent in a foreign language. So putting oneself out there is key in this video. This means that this video is not about sharing studying tips on learning a language on a desk, but rather it is about learning the language by putting oneself out there. In one of my previous videos, which is over here, we talked about collecting phrases like here and reading aloud like this magazine. These habits definitely played a huge role improving my language skills. But I want to share something else today that I think also deserves a huge credit in terms of getting me where I am now. To do that, I'm going to share my English learning journey since I have gone into the deepest level among the languages that I have learned so far. I'm sure you guys can apply these tricks to learning other languages whether you're in your home country or abroad. But before sharing my journey, I would like to briefly talk about why I enjoy learning foreign languages. I wanted to learn languages, especially English, so that I could go abroad and explore. When I was a kid, I used to idealize those adventurers and travelers, whether it's an Amazon forest, desert, or trip around the world. So I was quite sad to discover Bear Grylls quite late. Anyway, this is one of the reasons why I constantly want to go abroad by getting each of my degree in different countries. I am very passionate about getting out there and explore. Putting myself in a completely different environment or outside of my comfort zone made me feel like I'm an adventurer or explorer. I really enjoy seeing and learning new things and talking to people from different backgrounds and getting to know their stories and so on. So towards the end of this video, I'll put a timestamp over here. I want to briefly talk about how I actually leveraged languages, especially English, to explore the world. But for now, let's talk about how I learned English before going abroad. So back when I was in high school, I used a number of tools to learn English. The first one is like English conversation radio. So before breakfast, I would listen to the conversation for 20 minutes. It was like a simple daily conversation in many different situations. So I just listened and repeated after them. And also back then, I tried to consume as much US American and British contents as possible, mainly series. So I picked some series and watched them over and over, like Big Bang Theory, Modern Family, Prison Break. Like I mentioned in this video, I would turn on the subtitle and then watch them again without subtitles. And of course, to go abroad, I needed a test score, like TOEFL. So yeah, I studied a lot for TOEFL. It was quite stressful because I was not really good at test taking, but I ended up getting the score and I was really glad that the testing was over. Yeah, it was definitely a stressful time, but I think it definitely helped with my English skill. I also try to read not too difficult books in English, like Harry Potter, the first one, and Tuesdays with Morrie, and Rich Dad Poor Dad, that kind of stuff. And I would also watch news in English, like Arirang News and some US American news as well. Arirang News is mostly for Korean issues. They were very good. I think it exists to this day. And here I mostly worked on my listening skill. In South Korea, we have this like after school academy, or as we call it, hagwon. So I enrolled myself in an English conversation class that was run by a native speaker. Normally, there would be like 10 to 20 students in a classroom, but very fortunately, I had only like 4 to 5 students in my class. So we would spend a lot of time with the teacher. They would take us out to like dinner, or we went to like play game, that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of chances to talk to them. I remember I really enjoyed talking to them in English. And I finally went to college in the US, and it was really time to do actual stuffs in English. I really wanted to get the most out of my experience here. I wanted to master the language and learn as much culture bits as possible while I was there. One of the things that I told myself is not to surround myself with the people from my home country, because I really wanted to make the best out of my experience, and I wanted to surround myself with the English language. I wanted to live English. So straight from my freshman year, I started doing stuffs and getting involved. I'll just mention a few here. Number one is to become a president of sports clubs. I really love sports. I used to play a lot of sports in college, like soccer, swimming. I would learn tennis and table tennis, badminton, and rock climbing, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wasn't really in a varsity team except for table tennis. It was originally a club that I founded and it turned into a sports club. Taking this position in my freshman year or the first year of my college was a precious experience, I think, in many aspects of my life, especially language learning, because I was actually doing stuffs in a foreign language, and it was much more than just taking classes and talking to friends or going to a hospital in a foreign language. And my job as a president in my freshman year was applying for funding and talking and presenting to the student government so that we can get funded. And I also arranged coaching and practice sessions for my fellow players and for myself, and applying for the national collegiate competition and bringing the players and myself to the competition. I mean, it was the competition for college students. To be honest, there was quite a lot of work to do all the stuffs because I was not fluent in English and I had this like insecurity, what if I mess up, that kind of stuff. It gave me a great sense of accomplishment because it sort of showed me that I could actually do something in a foreign language. And number 2 is to join a lot of language clubs. I wanted to leverage my interest in learning languages to build my life and make friends there. So luckily I ended up making a lot of friends who were interested in Korean, German, and Japanese language. And with few of them, I would do a language exchange where I helped them with their Korean and they helped me with my English. And there was a German coffee hour where we gathered every Friday afternoon and had a conversation in German with a cup of coffee. I also joined the Japanese discussion club where we gathered every Thursday night and discussed a news article only in Japanese. I know that in those clubs we only spoke Japanese and German, but outside the clubs, we would spend a lot of time together, of course in English, and some of them actually became a good teacher to me. They would explain why this slang works like this and why they say this kind of slang, and maybe cultural background behind that. I found this very helpful because they knew what it felt like to learn a new language. And number 3 is gatherings and friends. In my previous video, I showed you guys these notebooks to collect phrases and expressions from like magazines, TV shows, and movies. This is also where I collected a lot of like phrases, slangs, and expressions. So I would ask my native friends to repeat if the slangs or expressions that they were using were worth collecting or internalizing. And I will collect them right here. Like as you see, back then I also loved these pocket-sized notebooks. But of course I didn't do this every time for the sake of conversation and friendship because I didn't want to annoy them. But I was really lucky enough to have good friends who were patient and willing to help. And lastly, like I promised in the first chapter, I want to talk about how I leveraged English to explore. So one of the best trips in my life is my trip from London in the UK to Kyiv in Ukraine. I did several years ago. I did not fly to move from one country to the next, but I only took a bus. And I stopped by Paris in France, and Zurich in Switzerland, and Vienna in Austria. And I interacted with the locals in every city, and I could use English and German to communicate with them. During this trip, I had a realization that we are all the same, you know? After spending a lot of time with them, I found out that we are all worried about the same thing. You know, we're worried about like money, future, getting a job, vacation, family, friendship, that kind of stuff. Anyway, this trip totally changed the way I travel. The joy of meeting and interacting with the locals in depth in a foreign language while traveling was something that I had not really thought about. So this made me feel like that I was going on an adventure which I romanticized sort of as a kid while leveraging the language skill. And that felt really great because it felt like bridging the gap between us and bringing us like together. And of course, this was another great learning opportunity for me in terms of learning languages. If you're abroad for school or work, and if you think your language skill is not improving as much as you expected, or if you hit plateau in terms of language learning, you could probably try to put yourself out there a little bit more and get involved in that language. If all you're doing is to take classes in the language and go home, it won't probably get you where you want it. So you could probably try to get involved a little bit more in that language, because we learn a lot by doing stuff or trial and error. Also, some of you might say, Jun, we're not even abroad. how should we live the language in our home country? True, but we've all got the internet. You might be able to find at least a few native speakers for your target language. And if you're willing to learn their language and culture, and if you're willing to teach yours, I think they'll be more than happy to do a language exchange with you. This is for sure living the language or putting yourself out there in your target language in action. You could also consider making a club, like whichever club you like, sports club, conversational club, or book club. But probably if you want to improve your language, conversation or book club might be ideal, because book club is where you read the book and discuss in your target language. You could definitely do this with a native speaker or any other people who are interested in your target language, because I think forming a support group or a community to do stuff together is very important. If you're not living in a big city where you can really find a native speaker for your target language, that is alright too, because we still got the internet and apps. With the apps like italki, you can find a native speaker and practice speaking your target language. Alright, this brings us to the end of this video. So this is how I put myself out there to learn English. It might sound a bit obvious or cliche, but what I really wanted to say in this video is that putting oneself out there is important in language learning, which is actually doing stuff in a foreign language. Like, at the risk of embarrassment, I'm running this YouTube channel in my second language, but yeah, just putting myself out there. I believe it creates a really good positive feedback where we actually do something in our target language and we get a sense of accomplishment, and this further motivates us to dive deeper into the language. And lastly, this drives us to do more stuffs in our target language. And of course, it totally depends on what your goal is for learning the language. But I thought it might be useful to like some people out there. Well, if you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing, because I'll be posting more contents like this, language learning, studying abroad, and learning in general. Actually, I'll be flying to the US in a month and a half, I think, and I'll make sure to make a video about my life in the US too and how I live English probably. My question for today is that what is your key method to learn a foreign language? So if you feel like it, please leave it down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, you might want to go check out this video over here, where I talk about one of the best advices that I've got for language learning. And over here, I'll make sure to put my next video once I upload it next week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you there. Bye bye.